Welcome to the only real estate podcast worth listening to, with your hosts Nick Good, Matt Kelderman, and Brian Force. Combined, they have 26 years of experience and have sold over 1,500 homes. Join them each week as they bring you everything you need to know about real estate. And now, here are your hosts, Nick, Matt, and Brian.
Hey everyone, we've got an amazing show today, like normal. We're joined here with Matt Kelderman, Brian Force, and our special guest, Tommy Flood, who is the CEO, team leader of one of the top producing Keller Williams offices here in North Texas. Tommy, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, I am officially the lamest last name guy in this group now. Flood, Force, Good, Kelderman.
Can we change it?
Sure, I'll take whatever. Give me something. So everybody should comment what my new last name should be. That's what we should do.
And then also, if he has a new last name, what should our band name be?
Ooh,
Since we have 4 pretty cool last names.
That would be sweet. Yep, that's what we need to do the show. Nobody listen to what we're saying. Just think of cool names for us going forward.
Just drop them down below. Exactly. And if we like one, or if we get to 1,000 members and the only real estate group we're being a part of, Matt will guarantee to change his name by week's end.
I will absolutely change it on my Facebook for 1 week.
Deal. Ooh.
All right.
Oh, whatever. That's going to get dangerous.
All right. We've got 916 people in our real estate group right now. So if you're interested and want to see Matt change his name, let's go ahead and join up, and we'll get that going. But Tommy is our team leader here at Keller Williams Dallas Preston Road. But what he's a master of is kind of breaking down people's businesses and kind of pinpointing on how to improve them and increasing the bottom line. So Tommy, you meet with how many agents do you meet with on a monthly, yearly basis?
I would say monthly. I probably consult with about 120 different agents a month.
Ooh.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's to some extent those would go anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour and a half long sessions, but probably 120 a month. I would say 30 a week.
And is that a makeup of brand new, wet behind the ear agents to
mostly experienced now?
Okay.
It used to consist of that, but that has transitioned.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Lady said Matt motherfucker Jones.
Yes.
That's the winner.
That one wins.
Yeah. Oh my God, I'm gonna lose clients.
So mainly a makeup of experienced agents now.
Yeah.
Now let's just do a whole show on last names.
Let's just start over from the top. Right. This whole thing is off the rails. We're 3 minutes in.
That's all right.
So when you're opening the book and looking at people's businesses, let's go down the path of what are you seeing as a general consensus that agents are struggling with today?
I think big picture, it's always listings, and I think we can talk a little bit more about that as things go on, but it's also the industry has adapted so much, the industry is changing so much, right? And I like to talk a lot about how we're in a shift, but it's not really just a market shift. We're in an industry shift, and that's everything from competition has shifted, the market is changing and getting a little tighter here. And then also, though, the consumer shifted, and so how a buyer and a seller want to interact, and how they want to be a part, how they want to be communicated with, and that's changed. And I find a lot of agents. I think the biggest struggle agents are having is figuring out how to adapt, especially the ones that have been doing it a long time.
Yeah,
they've been doing it a long time. They've done it. They've always done it this way, and they're feeling change. And they're just trying to figure out how to adapt to that. Like, how do I, and it's not that we do a bunch of different crap. It's, okay, how do I do open houses different, right? How do I do circle prospecting different than I have in the past? Because I would say across the board, everybody that's doing it the way they did 3 years ago is not doing as much business as they did 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brian and I had a conversation with an agent recently who ultimately decided to go a different direction, not join our team, but that was her exact thing. She knew that the industry was running away from her. How long has she been? Like
25 years.
25 years. She knew it was running away from her.
Yeah.
Right? And she's like, I need to change now, because she doesn't know what to do next. She's been doing it the same way for 25 years.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because real estate's still a relationship business, right?
Yeah.
So it's just how we communicate in that relationship, how we nurture that relationship, and then how do we create an ecosystem for our clients to really interact with us any way, how they want to, right? Like how do we do a platform that it keeps them involved with us along the process of the way. So that's it's not just a whole bunch of technology talk. It's also our clients out there Amazon's changed the way they think. Netflix has changed the way they think, and Facebook has changed the way they think, and they want to be a part of a community. We have to create a ecosystem where we can create and share as much value as possible with our consumers.
Well, so like that's where that fear comes from, I think, for the individual agent, right? Is like we are in an arms race, some famous people in real estate would say, and the players are going to be decided in the next few months. I think the big fear that larger teams can handle, and I think that the larger ones that have been successful have been able to sort of innovate around, is the same thing that individual agents just have a big fear around, and that is, well, Zillow's coming in and they're doing this, Redfin's coming in and they're doing this, right? iBuyer programs are doing this, Open Doors doing this, right? I mean, all that stuff is just centered around consumer experience, really. Nobody chooses those companies as far as their real estate transaction. Derek, I see you moving my camera. Thank you. Nobody chooses to go with those companies because they think they're just flat out better experts or like better at it's just convenience more than anything. It's streamlined processes. The days of the clunky real estate experience are probably over for the most part, but the consumer doesn't really feel that way when they hire an agent. A lot of times they feel like it would be easier to just go with a company, right? I think a lot of larger teams can innovate around that, right? They can put in their own iBuyer programs. They can start a freaking mortgage company, right? And do that, right? They can align themselves with strategic partners, right? Everybody across some major brokerages like Keller Williams, we can do a cost-effective mortgage now, right? A lot of really different things that can streamline that process well. What can the individual agent do if they're suffering from that sort of same kind of fear? Like, I just don't have the ability to streamline things to give myself the perception that I am just the same. I'm just as quality and experience as giving or going with any of these larger, tech companies or whatever. What can the individual agent do to sort of keep up in that way?
I think a lot of times as I coach and consult with them, it's all about what kind of value can they create? What kind of value can they provide? For too long, the individual agent's value has been information, and that's the problem. When it's still information, then, and I still think a lot of people take it that way. I'm going to put out a newsletter. I'm sending a market update. That's still all information, and quite honestly, if they cared about that information, they've already gotten it.
Right.
And they can get it probably faster than we ever can. And so I think that it's looking at right, real estate it's a pipeline business, and it always has been. There's a great book called The Platform Revolution, and it talks about it talks basically about how platforms, ecosystems like an Amazon, like a Facebook, how they eat pipeline style businesses. And pipeline style businesses being, I get sales, I walk them through, and so it's you can still highly systematize, but I think it's also focusing in on what's going to be the value that you provide. It's amazing. So last year, just as many people found their seller through an open house as they did through a direct call from an agent. So prospecting, cold calling, for sale by owners, expireds, and so forth. Just as many sellers, according to NAR, found their seller. They found their agent through an open house.
Wow.
That shocked me when I saw it.
Yeah.
Mainly because I was saying in our market shifting, I would say the number one thing that agents tell me they're going to do this year is you know what I'm going to do this year? We rolled into 2019. It's going to be the year I become good at expireds.
Right.
Yeah. The year I'm going to focus on expireds. I'm going to do, and that's great. Nick knows. I tell all the time that he and I joke all the time because I'm like, he's always like, door knocking doesn't work. Phone calls work. And I'm like, yeah, okay, for you. Right. All right. And because I'll take you down the street to somebody that says, man, door knocking is killing it.
Yeah.
And phone calls suck.
Yep.
And it really is. So I say with the individual agent is pick what you're going to do and do it better than you've ever done it before.
Yeah.
And this is not a specific thing I want to talk, but you got to have the mindset that it's different. I've got to have the mindset I have to do it different. If you do it the same way, and it doesn't necessarily mean you have to do different things. You just have to do them different ways.
Yep.
So let's talk about adapting a little bit, right? Because this is even something I'm going through, and calling still does work, by the way, but it's not as effective as it once was. And so, what's that scam going around? That Leonis, or what is it?
Sierra Leone
scam.
I just see memes for it. I really don't even know what the hell's happening.
You haven't gotten a call yet?
I'm disappointed I haven't gotten a call.
And I'm surprised Matt doesn't, because Matt picks up every telemarketer call. In the office, I hear him all day. He's like, hello? He's like, oh, no, man, I already got cable, but I really appreciate the call, man. Just continue to follow up with me in the future. He's just too nice. It's unreal, man.
That's setting up good karma, man.
I try
ridiculous right there.
One guy the other day called from New York. I was like, bro, if you're in Texas, I'd hire you, because I've told you no 6 times and you won't hang up this damn phone.
Yeah, I mean, so the calls do work, but with these scams and more of this happening, where even we did a podcast yesterday, and the lady is talking about how she never answers the phone when it's an unidentified number.
Yeah.
And so we're having to adapt our kind of image into more of that media style of just getting out there in front of podcasts, through video, through our sphere even better. What are you seeing the agents resisting on in terms of not wanting to adapt or catch up to today's speed?
I think we've gotten very digital. And what I see working, so I know we're talking about what's struggling. What I see working is face-to-face. I think it goes back to that open house comment, right? So I think it's how do we provide value, and one of the ways we do that is face-to-face and the rapport that we can build in that world. So I see a lot of agents resisting that. I see a lot of agents that have gotten used to generating business digitally and are now looking at, and quite honestly, are not wanting to change in any way what that is. Like you said, you want to still be on the phones, and yet you're willing to make an adaptation into that. So it's I would say the biggest thing I see that resistance to is getting face to face with people.
So it's going back old school.
Yeah.
Which I love that, right? Like I will freely admit I'm not the biggest fan of open houses, just because I don't want to give my weekends back up. Right. I've worked my butt off to try and grab some of my weekends back, and Sunday.
That's what you have a team for, man.
Yeah, Sunday. Yeah, exactly. Well, and we do that now, but I also feel that a little bit in my business, because I'm such a face-to-face relationship guy that I can connect with people through text message. We're using obviously the podcast and video platforms to connect with people too, but I'm not the greatest cold caller in the world, right? Like, so I love the fact that the face-to-face stuff is coming back. There's just not a lot of places to meet people face-to-face that are of time efficient, which I think is why a lot of agents push back, because face-to-face meetings are time consuming.
Well, I would say both in coaching appointments and so my consulting when around hiring new agents into the market center and seeing agents transfer to us, I'm shifting to a lot of Zoom calls.
Yeah.
It's still face-to-face. Yeah. Right? I'm still getting to do that, but I would probably say 15, 20%, almost 1 out of 5 are going, at least the first connection is that way.
Right.
So I'm being able to combine digital with face-to-face.
And I think that's the technology thing that you're talking about with the old school stuff.
Yeah. And people not, thinking that a buyer doesn't want to do that. I mean, that's a way to do it time effectively.
Yep.
I think part of it when it comes to just stockpiling listings and getting more seller clients is we just have different objections that we need to handle these days. And there are objections that we haven't had to handle really in this business before, and agents haven't adapted to having to handle those objections, right? For the longest time, the objections that we have to handle in a listing appointment or even to get an appointment are with like FSBOs, right? I want to sell on my own, or it's I want to go with a different company. Why is yours better, right? And if you could, that's forever. Those were the big objections, right? And there's a lot of sub objections in there, but that's sort of what they centered around. Now, a lot of the objections deal with other pieces of or other companies within the industry that might not even be traditional real estate companies and things like that. People haven't figured out how to handle those objections yet. If you can still pound the phones or face-to-face or whatever and get appointments, you shouldn't lose out if you fundamentally believe in what you do. Like I fundamentally believe in what we do. And that's why I'm still in real estate, right? So if I'm sitting down with you and you say you want to list with Redfin, okay, great. I brought all the comps for them for DFW. Here's their average days on market. It's about 126 days right now. Do you want to have carrying costs and continue to pay mortgage interest for the next 126 days? Because that's going to totally offset the money that you're saving, right? Oh, you want to go with Open Door? Fantastic. I'm going to pull up my phone and go to their FAQ page and show you where their average fees range from 12 to 13.5%, right? Do you really think that you're saving money giving them a discount on the sales price and paying those fees on top of it? That's how they make money, because they're not actually buying your house to live in. Nobody from Open Door is moving into your house, right? So those are objections like any other. It's just that most agents, they get afraid of those things because they haven't really had to deal with those objections before. I don't think it's any harder to set appointments right now than it was in the past. The mediums may be different, but if you can overcome those objections and get in the door, there's really no reason that we shouldn't be taking just as many listings as we have traditionally. It's just about doing our job better than we ever have.
Yes and no. I mean, so I would like to know what our office numbers are, and you probably know them, but I can tell you our listings are flat. We bounce around taking more listing, up in listings and then being down 2 or 3 in the month. But the objections we're facing now is you've got the old objections in there, like the Redfins, or why should I hire you versus the other agent. But now we're coming in with objections of the 2 new ones are Zillow offers, which now there's a local brokerage here that is running the Zillow program, and they're coming in with a we can buy it or list it style deal. Yeah. And they have the big brand behind it, which that's one that we've started just facing this week.
So how are you handling that one?
So my objection handling to that is great. I completely understand that you're wanting to go look down that maybe more convenient route of having somebody buy it. It's obviously you're going to come at it. It's going to come at a reduced price. I know that they've talked also about listing your home, but they also have a close relationship with Zillow. So do you think that they're truly going to have your best interest in mind on the listing side, or do they want to come in and try to figure out how to buy that home so that they can still maintain that Zillow relationship?
So do they want to come in and buy that home, or you can use the how do you think Zillow makes money line? So how does Zillow make money?
Buy it as cheap as possible.
Buy it as cheap as possible, or they keep your listing on Zillow long enough that they can continue to generate leads off it as an active listing and sell them to real estate agents in one form or another. They're changing their things with Opcity and stuff like that now. Zillow has a vested interest, right, in your home being on the market. So it's creating
doubt, which is easy that we can do. But the other new one is we're going to, if it's been expired, we're going to rent the home out. Yeah. We've now faced more and more. We're going into the rental. We're going to rent it out and hold it, which is something I faced during the recession a lot of, right? And so what we now have to face is that for a fiduciary, does that really make sense for them? Do they want to become a landlord? Yep. So you now have another route that you have to take it down, and it's a little bit of a longer path to determine, all right, do you really want to become a landlord and deal with that? And 2, if you don't, then let's figure out the best solution. Or if you do, let's go ahead and sell you more rental properties so we can build up this massive portfolio.
Yeah, you can go either way with that, right? If you want to become a landlord and if that's your thing, instead of selling, you go, okay, what's your email address? I'm going to send you a cost-benefit analysis. It'll take into account your capital expenditures, but also depreciation and things like that, right? And dive into it, and they'll go, oh, wow, I've never been a landlord before. This really actually is a lot more work than I thought. Or they'll go, oh, no, this is great. Thanks for providing that value. Why don't we go about buy 10 more of these, and I'll use you as my agent because you know what the hell you're doing, right? Like, yeah, exactly. Those are just objections, and you handle those on a regular basis, right? I think this is markets have dips. This is a dip not just in the numbers, right? This is a dip in it's a shift in the way people are thinking, right? And those things tend to, I have faith that just like the stock market or any other business, things tend to even themselves out over time. But in those times of shift, that creates a lot of doubt and that creates a dip in the numbers, right? Right now, there are a lot of objections like that to handle, and a lot of agents haven't gotten skilled up enough to handle those objections. So we're seeing a dip market wide. And over the next 2-3 years, the people getting into the business will already be aware of this. The people who stay in the business will have to get better at adapting to handle those objections. Things will get back on track in the next 2 to 3 years just organically, because I every single one of those objections that we just handled, I think we handled in a legitimate way.
We would have nailed it.
I love how you guys handle
solving all the world's problems.
I just tell stories about the tenant who flushes Walmart bags down the toilet and jacks your plumbing up, and you really want to deal with that person?
Exactly.
Well, and I think that's great when we still get, but I do believe we're losing at bats.
Yeah.
I think we're losing at bats. I think
agree.
that's where the iBuyer world can play into play. That's where a Zillow platform can play we're not. I run into very few agents that are competing against Open Door on a listing presentation.
Right.
I mean, it happens, but it's not that often. And what happens more times than not is they just go there before.
They don't even get to the appointment.
We're not striking out against Open Door. We're losing at bats.
So how do we take our at bats back?
I think I think that's part of the having the community. I love Josh Team, the president of Keller Williams. He always says, look, because he was not a real estate agent,
right?
And so he talks from a consumer perspective and the consumer experience. And he always says, look, I don't want to talk to you any more than you want to talk to me. And he goes, I don't want 24-hour access to you. What I want is 24-hour access to information. What I want is, and I think that's what it is. It's you say for an individual agent, and I don't mean to be Homer, but I would align myself with a broker that has an end-to-end experience,
right?
That allows a consumer to interact with you when they want to.
Yeah. Yep. And that's an important question to ask, right? Because when we're talking about losing at bats, I personally, being in the industry for long enough, I think we're losing at bats to stupid things, right? An iBuyer program is a stupid thing to lose at bats to because it's pretty simple to put in place, right? Join any wholesale mailing list and you'll find that there's a lot of people out there doing similar things, right? If you can align with the brokerage that goes, all right, they're going to do an iBuyer program, we're going to do one too. We'll offer the same thing and we'll market the hell out of it, right? Now you've got your at bats back. But if you're with a broker that doesn't have those tools in the tool bag, you might continue to lose those at bats.
Yeah.
Well, it's still understanding the marketing play, though. You can align yourself with any iBuyer program or create your own, but if you don't tell anybody about it,
right,
then you're not getting your at bats back. And so that's something that like we've done is we've offered a guaranteed sale program since 2009.
Yeah,
I personally have probably bought 5 houses from it, but it's gotten me in the door 3 to 5.
Right.
It's gotten me in the door on. I don't want to exaggerate, but it's probably hundreds of houses to be able to explain what that guaranteed sale program is, and is that the right path we want to take,
right?
Or do you want an offer now, or do you want that market value? And so it's just the other companies, the Open Doors and the Zillows have a lot more branding money power behind it than we did here in the local market. And I don't think we did a good enough job as brokerages as a whole to be able to understand that was an effective play.
Yeah.
And so now we're playing behind and trying to play catch up.
Yeah. I would say we have that too never wins.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right. It doesn't. You're never going to win if it's like, I can do that for you as well.
Right.
You've got to be in front of that. You got to have that marketing going. You've got to have the conversation.
Exactly.
And you need a place for your clients to commune with you, right? So that they feel like it's there. And until you have it, I mean, there's places to do that, but it needs to be chalked with value, right? And I think that's one of the things, Nick, we were talking about, I can't remember, it was last week or whatever, and I think with you guys on big teams, and I think that this is running large teams. I'll tell you this, so another thing that large teams are struggling with is having a clear value to their agents.
Yeah.
Because right now, like if your value is, I give leads, right? Then what's going to happen eventually is somebody's going to come with better splits, and they're going to tell them they're better leads.
Right.
They may not be, but they're sure going to tell them they are. And it's kind of like when you have a certain demographic that wants to use an iBuyer program, you can't convince them an iBuyer sucks.
Right.
Yep.
You can't.
Exactly.
They've already got it in their head. They've heard the story.
Yep. Right.
They've listened to the 100,000 commercials on the radio and around. So I do believe that it's a matter of making sure you're in front of it. It's making it, and so that goes back to that adaptability. But what is the value for you? Like you guys have to know. I'll say there's certain brokers in town that somebody will come to me and they'll tell me, hey, I'm thinking about going and interviewing with so-and-so. And I'm like, why? Well, they've got great marketing. They've got an easy button. They told me I don't even have to bring my admin with me. They're going to do all that work for me. And I'm like, okay, well, what that says to me is they don't have the system, the models, and the tools for you to create better margins and run a profitable business.
Right.
Because they got shiny shit. Like
Exactly.
That's what it is.
Yep.
So it's the same thing when you guys have people coming to you from your team that are like, I think I'm going to go talk to so and so because they have better splits and they give better leads and they, your value is well, what that tells me is they don't have the systems and the ability for you to make a better dollar per hour.
Right. Well, it tells us a lot about the person that we're talking to also, right? We've talked about this on the show before. The level of questions that they're asking tells me a lot about their understanding of just their business in general. Mm-hmm. Typically, when you're getting hammered with the leads and commission splits, that's almost always an agent whose bank account is not full enough for them to think past 90 days.
Right, exactly.
Because they're just figuring out how do I make as much money as humanly possible right now. And they tend not to be, especially for Brian and I, those agents tend not to be the best fit anyways because they're probably going to leave in 6 months.
Yep. Yeah.
Right?
You can't make them happy.
No, you can't.
And so those are people that if they won the lotto, they're still going to find a way to bitch and moan.
Yeah.
And so, like I've got an amazing group right now, and that's something that Tommy and I talk with Tommy often about is like I want to make sure I'm still always providing value. Mm-hmm. And some of the things that even on our team I overlook is the leverage piece that my team has, like the dollar per hour that my agents can do. When they take a listing, they're pretty much done. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so their dollar per hour on that is insanely high.
Yep.
They don't have to manage it the way they would have to do on other teams.
Yeah.
And a lot of agents don't understand that value until they're doing it on their own or on another team. We always struggle with that. But we never sell on leads. The minute you sell on leads is they leave you on leads. Because I do think I give the best leads out around town.
I've sold a bunch of real estate as an individual agent and a struggling person who is trying to start a team. And I will tell you, I didn't fully understand the amazing amount of time leverage that you can get back, specifically on the listing side, after taking it and then becoming pretty hands-off except for negotiations because I was doing so much work. I really think if agents started looking at themselves more of a time consultant,
yep.
and instead of a real estate agent and start valuing their time a little bit more. The problem is the beginning of your real estate career, you have an abundance of time and very minimal amount of knowledge.
Right.
So you think time is your value prop, and really it's not. You're just training your clients to just run you.
It's that busy
That's
work.
all you're doing.
I just drove and picked up 5 lock boxes.
Yeah,
I'm like, do you have listings? No, but
awesome.
I need those 5 lock boxes.
Yeah, you spent $650 on lockbox is good work.
I'm like, dude, what do you don't even have any freaking listings in the pipeline here, but you got those signs and they look amazing. But they're in your garage.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's that busy work that they just keep hanging out on.
And that's why finding the right personality profiles and just the right culture is so important because, we're very upfront with our agents. We're going to provide you leads, and you're going to provide you leads. Mm-hmm. You're going to come in at 7:30 and you're going to call expireds. Every time you do an open house, you're going to door knock, right? You're going to circle prospect around all your leads. You're going to generate a lot of these leads. And we're going to provide some too. We invest a ton in marketing. But the real value that you get from us is that's all you have to do. Those things make you money, right? What doesn't make you money is designing your website, right? Or screwing around with your Facebook or spending 3 hours going like, oh, I got to find the perfect yard sign design. No, we don't do any. You only make money. And the people that don't work out on our team or a lot of teams are the people that go, okay, well, all this stuff's taken off my plate. So I already set my appointment for today. So now I've got all this time on my hands because I don't do anything else. So I'm going to go home, right? We're giving you your time back so you can set 3 appointments a day, right? And take 40 listings a year instead of the 4 you were taking before. But if you don't take advantage of that, the team's not going to provide you value.
Yeah.
Well, the dollar per hour conversation is still based around it's 50 to 60 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's still got of course, y'all know that, but you're in business with not the level of talent you want to be in business with. If you hear, I have a story that one time I had sitting around with a group of guys, and one of the guys was doing a construction up in Alaska. He was building, he was framing out military housing.
Okay.
And he was running a company doing that, and he basically said that he's making about $40,000 a week because there was so much of it going on. And another guy at the table, we were younger at the time.
Yeah.
Another guy at the table looks and goes, man, I could go work there 1 week and take the rest of the year off.
Why?
But that's that is a mindset.
Absolutely.
A lot of times,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And I think especially young, newer agents, you can make enough money in this business. That's always one of the things we talk about, the financial thermostat in this company, right? You can make more money in this business really fast than you can with a college degree nowadays.
Sure.
Right? And so then it's how do I motivate the people around me to do that? And I think some of that motivation is there. I love what you guys do with here's what you're going to do, bam, 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 bam.
Yep.
Because I would say we've talked in different levels. What are agents what are they facing in their struggles. A lot of people are still just facing with, okay, what do I do next?
Yeah, 100%.
They've worked in a structure their whole life that work 40 hours, work another 40 hours, get a paycheck. I want to address this because Jessie Johnson just asked a question I think is super relevant, and I know it's something that I always dealt with. She said, I don't understand how you form the relationship with the seller if you get the listing and pass it on to somebody else to do the work. And I think a lot of agents think that. I know I thought that way for years.
Oh, that's a great
It's an
one.
awesome question, dude. Yeah. It really is.
So I'm going to let you be more in depth on that.
Yeah.
But Jesse, let me tell you. So since we have a team around us, my relationship with my clients is better than it was on my own. And so I'll let Matt dive in as to kind of his experiences being hands off. But I love that you asked that question because that's a really, really common myth. I promise you I had a shittier relationship with my clients when I was doing everything on my own.
Yeah. And here's the thing, is somebody who absolutely had that exact train of thought no less than 6 months ago and is currently walking out a totally different thing. I'm with Brian. I can 100% service my clients at a much higher level because what isn't relationship building is the sign drop off. Yep. What isn't relationship building is me telling you that your listing is live, right? What isn't really, none of that's relationship building. What's relationship building is me being able to, I still answer all my clients' questions, right? I still communicate with them about showings. We still have weekly conversations about feedback. I still negotiate repairs, right? There's all of the things that require my level of expertise. I still do those things. What I don't need to be doing, and where the time leverage really comes back in, is, for instance, I mean, Jesse's a perfect example. I'm working a referral for her right now. It's in Saginaw, right? Just to drive out there and drive back to drop something off, it's 2.5 hours.
Yep.
That's not a dollar productive activity for me, right? And it doesn't strengthen my relationship with the clients either. It's a sign in the yard, right? I can call them and tell them, hey, the sign's out there now. I can still nurture that relationship, but I just got that 2.5 hours back to do a litany of things, whether it's for them or other clients. But it all comes circular. And I think as agents, we think that the part that we're leveraging out is the relationship. I'm not leveraging out the relationship. I'm leveraging out the bullshit that has nothing to do with the relationship. And that's where so much of your time is wasted. Right? I think it's really important to know because we think, like Nick says, we think we're doing a lot of dollar productive activities. Most of it's just busy work, right? And that, so I mean, I'm super glad she asked that question though, because that's a limiting belief I had for a long time.
And those are the things. I'm sorry. Those are the things that you're good at, right?
Of course.
And the things that our team is great at, they're way better than us at. So it actually strengthens our relationship
Ladies'
with our clients.
emails are way better than mine.
Just
right?
everything.
They're way more
right?
informational than mine.
The way
be.
she communicates with my sellers is better, right? Her tactfulness, her skill set is so much more suited to what she does than for me to do what she does. Imagine at any great customer service experience you've had has probably involved more than one person, right?
Yep.
When you go stay at the Ritz-Carlton, the owner of the hotel doesn't bring you towels.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And if you're like me and who's like super bitchy when he stays at hotels and calls the front desk because he wants, every 5 minutes because he forgot his toothbrush and then he also forgot his toothpaste.
Dive hotels and they wouldn't do that anyway.
Right? Like I've had great experiences because a team of people is helping me. Not only the image of a team is helping me, but an expert in everything that they do is helping me, and that has made my relationship with my clients so much better.
Yeah,
I would say, in response to that, looking at another industry, if you go to a restaurant, right, and you're getting great service, so you have a fantastic server taking care of you. When the chef or the manager comes by and asks you how your meal was, it is way more impactful than any time that the server asks you if they can help you with anything. And so I liken it to that is it's not that you sacrifice the relationship, you get to relate to them in a way that is outside the transaction or the transactional norm.
100%.
Like any other agent is going to communicate to them in all of the areas that you said. So now, how do you just get to communicate to them one time with something that's different and it's an added extra value? It's like the manager coming by the table.
And then the flip side is, what if you went to a restaurant where the manager was also your waiter and cooked the food? You'd be like, this is a weird restaurant.
Yeah.
and it would take forever to get anything else done, right?
Exactly.
Because
you could be the only customer at a time.
Of course. I'm up against another agent listing right now where the agent's value prop is I'll show up for every single showing. And I looked at the seller, I was like, you know how freaking annoying that's going to be for the buyers to have your listing agent walking around pointing out the most obvious shit in the entire, you don't need to do any of that stuff. It's not a value proposition to waste your time.
No.
It's just not.
Plus, what does that show about how much production construction he's doing.
Exactly. How many listings can you sell if you're servicing every single one of them from like the second the pen hits the paper until the closing table, every single aspect?
But the consumer doesn't care about that.
They don't.
No.
So everything at the end of this is like we have the great stories to support that you can actually hand it off.
Yeah.
But it's setting the expectations with your client. Again, it's just like in the agent world, like they come in when they join a team or join anything, they want to know what happens next.
Yeah.
And so it's the handoff. And where I was one of the kind of probably the first ones, at least in DPR, Dallas Preston Road, that was kind of handing this off. And it's through trial and error, through lots of unhappy clients in the very beginning, because I didn't set that expectation tone, right? You know, so we have it, you know, in our training, and even when I'm running one today, I'd be like, Tommy, you know, when you sign this, we upload it in our system. Duncan's going to call you. He's going to do the introduction. He's going to do the one that schedules the photos and the photography. And then after that, once we go live, you're going to get a call every Thursday. Doesn't mean that you can't reach out to us beforehand if you have questions. We'll be happy to answer your questions, and we have a team behind that can answer 99.9% of them. Once we get a contract in, Stephanie, who's negotiated thousands of contracts, this is her sole job, is to negotiate contracts. She's gonna give you a call and set it up for the best success, which is meaning you're going to get the best offer for that, right? We want to make sure you're winning. Then she's going to negotiate repairs. Here's the thing. If you hear from me before we get to closing, that means something bad's happened.
Yeah.
You don't want to hear from me. So then I paint that picture of success. And so what's going to happen after that is once we get that great contract, we're going to go to closing. You're going to be happy. You're going to get a big old check, right? And then we're going to take a photo together. You're going to be smiling. You're going to be holding up one of our famous The Good Home Team T-shirts. And then I'm going to ask you for two things. I'm going to ask you for a review and a referral. And that's as long as your team executes. Where the ball gets dropped is if your team doesn't execute exactly what you said is going to happen.
Well,
Yeah.
I would say I come from a real estate family, right? My mom and dad have been around. I think my dad got his broker's license in like '83, and I used to have this all the time conversation with my dad, and my dad had a really hard time handing stuff off and understanding that concept. And his famous statement was like, "People like me, they want to work with me." And I think the truth is, and it's what you just said, what people love is your standards.
Exactly, right?
They love your standard of service. They love the experience. If it was all about you, then they would never not use you.
Right.
I like my chiropractor, but if he was the one checking me in at the front desk, I'd be like, "Did you get demoted?" Or like, "You're still cracking my back today, right?"
But at the same time, too, I don't want to paint that because I'm not painting an awful picture, right? But because you could also look at that as an individual agent and say, "Okay, well then, what do I do? How do I?" And you talked about what can an individual agent do. Mm-hmm. It's also setting the expectation and telling the story. You still have to go above and beyond. And I think you don't have to have a team of people behind you to take care of that. No. You can, but I still think in the same way, you need to reach out and have some form of communication outside of the standard transactional communications that makes it a little different of an experience.
It's leveraging out maybe the brokerage and kind of where we can kind of go to before we have to wrap it up is the value proposition in brokerages starting to change. Right? Where do we see the direction of brokerages going to continue to support the agents in this ever-changing, real estate world?
Yeah. Well, and I can tell you with us, straight up, it's the platform conversation.
Right.
It's creating the ability for you to provide an end-to-end consumer experience out there that allows your customers it builds a moat around your business. The truth is, forever in real estate, any four of us can do, and anybody listening can do what anybody else can do. Right? Now, the only difference is some people may have more resources to scale it bigger, but I can do the same thing.
Well, that's sort of the point to make is where you, because we've talked about this before. Not everybody wants to be a world beater, right? But if you have huge goals in this business, you've got to learn to scale it at some point and create a consumer experience. And to sort of piggyback off what you were saying before, don't take that advice too literally that you can do everything yourself. You just have to do it at a high level. That is true to an extent, but there will be a ceiling. Like in being realistic with yourself, we all know freaks of nature that do 100 transactions a year on their own, right? Mm-hmm. My brother is a great example. He's an individual agent. I think he's done as high as 17 million a year that he's done. It was 50-something transactions, no assistant, no nothing. You're probably not him. Right, like I'm not Jordan Spieth either, right? Yeah. Even though I know how to swing a golf club, like if you want to do, I would say probably 30, 35 transactions is most people's just entrepreneurial limit before they need to get purposeful. Like, don't think that just because you can do a certain amount that you can continue to refine the skills to do everything at a high level and continue to scale. Like, be realistic with yourself as a business person and go, okay, these are my strengths, and what I really need to focus on is replicating myself in these areas and making a great team around me.
Yeah. Shout out to Rachel Potter too, because she's somebody, like, speaking of somebody who was new and came in and got big and then built a team quickly. She's a perfect example of that. She came from a different background, but I think she's a great example of somebody who's very quickly came in and got herself leveraged, and now, I mean,
exploded.
Top 3 team in the office or something like that, top 4. Pretty impressive.
And again, not to make this all about being a KW homer, but if you're a new agent or even a veteran agent, what should some of the questions they be asking if they're even thinking about switching brokerages? What should they look for, regardless if it was a Keller Williams or an Exit Realty?
Well, and I think it goes back. Well, I think the number one question is, what is your? I would ask my broker, what's your plan to provide an end-to-end consumer experience that competes with Zillow and Open Door and Redfin and is going to protect me? What's your plan for that?
Yep.
Because kind of what the last half of what I was going to say is we've always been able to do what anybody else can do.
Yep.
There's the difference in a platform world, going back to that book, Platform Revolution, the difference in platform economy, which is why, you look at companies out there that are valued on their user experience and their user number and their platform world and not valued on what they actually profit and make. The reason for that is because platforms are winning out in everything. It's not just real estate, man. It's winning in everything. Yep. And I'm too late to the game to go create. Like, the only person that can compete with Netflix is going to be Disney.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a perfect example, because how many times do you download like the individual channel app to watch your shows? Like, if I want to watch $1 Million Listing, I'm not downloading the Bravo app. If it's not on Netflix or Hulu, like, I'm not watching it.
Yep.
Because it's not on the same platform.
Right.
There's so much free TV out there now too. Brian's always got something on in the office. I'm watching it now. I got all these stupid apps on my phone for free shows I don't even want to watch, just sucking up my life.
Is it telenovela?
And probably sucking up our bandwidth.
No, I use all my LTE.
Okay.
I might have stolen the Wi-Fi to one of our vendors in the office. I'm not on our office Wi-Fi anymore.
Awesome.
I like I said, I think for newer agents and for experienced agents, the one thing, and we talk about on the show all the time, and sometimes I feel like people who watch just or hear us just saying the same thing. But if you're not looking for a way to compete at a high level and meet people where they're at, right, and everybody's on their phone nonstop, you're just gonna get crushed, man.
Yep.
There's no way to do the job efficiently. And not just time-wise, but also monetarily, if you're not diving into technology mixed with the relationship part. And I just think most agents just don't understand how to use both those things together, right? And it's killing some people, but I don't know.
And there's a synergy. It's got to be technology to give you a better client experience, to build better relationships.
Yeah. Because to Jesse's point, you can't just use technology to extract yourself from the entire transaction.
Because then you become
and then
like
expect those people.
You're just transactional.
You're just begging for referrals at closing. But you really can't. Like, the clients won't come back to you. They won't send you people. They may not bitch at you during the transaction. They just won't ever use you again.
Right.
And if you're constantly having to churn new business, that's exhausting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, which is something that I did.
Yeah.
Right? We joke around that I'm transactional. My number one source of business is now Sphere and past clients. So I am always going to, for the past 4 years in a row. So I think that's a trend, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I think it's officially a trend.
Yeah, I think I'm a normal real estate agent now. But the way that has happened is I still stay transactional.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still transactional up until we're still providing an exceptional level of service, and then it's the aftercare that goes into it. Right? I'm sending emails. I'm I'm stalking them on Facebook, and then we have the client events, and so we do 6 community events a year. We've talked about it before.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, it's getting face to face. And the ones that don't end up going, so I mean, I did actually have a client. So this past week's kind of been a shit week where I found out like 4 people ended up somehow getting under contract without us. They somehow slipped and fell into a contract. But one of them, I reached out and I said, "Hey man, what happened?" And he's like, "Look, happy wife, happy life."
Yep.
And he coaches a soccer team that his son's soccer team, and one of the son's moms on there is a part-time agent, and there's that obligation. That was a face-to-face.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
No matter how much experience and how great I know them, what he did say is like, I'm so sorry we missed your Easter event. And they want to come to the next one. Guess what? They're still they're going to continue coming, because I'm going to continue providing that relationship and that value there, because I'm going to bring them back in.
Yep.
Right? And so just because someone doesn't use you this time doesn't mean it's not going to happen next time.
Oh, dude, for sure. We talk about that all the time when we talk about like, because we all hammer expired and stuff like that. If we have a good conversation with expired, but we don't even get the at bat, and we have their email address and phone number and address, agents always ask, "Oh, they want on the market. Should I just take them out of Boomtown?" Fuck no. What are you kidding me? Like, I don't care if they sell, look up at the tax rolls and find where they moved, right? And then I'll send them a housewarming gift, right? And we'll get them in 5 years. I don't care, man. I'm in this for life.
And I've been following up with a former NBA player for the past 9 months on his house. I talked to him yesterday. He's like, "Call me again in 3 months." I'm going to call that dude every 3 months until he sells that damn house.
That's the Matt Kelderman of the NBA. Just, "No, man, I'm good right now on cable, but just keep following up.
Just
Maybe
keep
one day."
exactly what he's doing.
One
Never going
day.
to sell that thing. Just likes talking to me. No, well.
Well, I mean, we're towards the end here. So one thing that I want to bring up is our next series of shows. We want to start diving into more of the niche marketing. I know that we're going to have a short sale expert coming on here in the next couple of weeks, but I want to hear some of the topics that everyone else wants us to cover, because I mean, we can only cover expireds and for sale owners for so long before this gets boring for ourselves.
But we talk about a lot of different sources at a very high level. So tell us what you want us to like deep dive on, right? Is it client events? And we'll go real granular, right? Is it online? We've done everything on online lead generation I think you can do. But like just whatever it is, we talk about stuff that you should be doing.
But we can get granular and online, because I will tell you that, and I keep putting it out here even from last year is I'm diving more and more into YouTube. And there's 3 people, a couple of them are in our group right now, and then there's another gentleman out of Phoenix, Arizona, who's got somewhere between 8,000 to 12,000 followers, but his video views are getting 100 to 150,000 views.
Nice.
And I'm supposed to be setting up a call with him, and he said that his business has exploded because of YouTube.
I bet.
He says he can't keep the demand is way up there, and so I'm going down that path. And once maybe we can get him on the show, so it's more like YouTube or Instagram, because I know that's a lot of people are using those mediums out there. So there's got to be people making good money or generating a lot of leads.
For sure.
And their brand presence from it.
And then everybody just needs to go over to the group with its also pretentious name, the only real estate group worth being a part of. We're just going to stick with this theme for everything. Piss off all the other real estate agents who have podcasts, and request to join that, because there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff going down in there that we're doing a lot of lives and things like that in there too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and if we can get 1,000 people by. If we
get to
listening
1,000 by
replay,
Sunday,
by Sunday,
that's 4 days. That's only like 88. We had like 112 people in one day, so I know I'm going to get rocked on this.
It'll be Matt motherfucker Jones for a week.
For a week on Facebook.
Yeah.
There's so many people. Ugh.
Well, Tommy, thank you for joining us.
All right, thanks, guys, for having me.
If you have any questions for Tommy about like what's going on with brokerages, technology, just drop a comment down below. We'll have him answer some questions in there. And then if you have any questions for us, or if you love this, please share this out, tag an agent, add them to the group. If you're listening on iTunes, leave us a review. Watching on YouTube, hit that bell thing.
Yeah.
And Matt, I'll leave it up to you.
I think that's it. Derek, take us out, my man.